Hey guys, Angry Monkey here, and we have a different view. We've got the game wall instead of just a brown table. I have been challenged by Aggie Thunderpaw.
You know what? I'm throwing all I'm throwing all the rules out the window at the end here. I'm challenging three people. I'm challenging the Man Boy Cave. I'm challenging Viro's Vault, and now I'm challenging you, Angry Monkey Games.
To come up with a list of 5 games that are under $10 that I would recommend to you guys. As in, like, games that are good, not some game like Barbie Ocean Discovery, which, by the way, I have a little playthrough on that one. But no, I wouldn't recommend that to you, because why would I do that? And I'm also not going to include some of the cliche picks. So I would love to talk about, say, Halo 3, for example, which is like a $9 game, or Sonic 2, which is like a $7 game loose, or Mario Duck Hunt, which is also like a $7 to $9 game. Just because, like, if I were to just talk about those, that'd be kind of a boring video. So I'm going a little, I'm not going to say like deep cuts or whatever, but I'm going like the upper middle or whatever, not the tip top of the games on these. And I also couldn't narrow it down to 5 games, so I've actually got 10 games here. Now, like I said, I don't know what other people have picked in the series, so if you're watching a playlist of these or marathoning a bunch of these, I might have talked about some that other people have mentioned, but I haven't seen any of those, so I don't know what people have picked. And so these are just a few games that I would recommend to you. And there are several games that, even out of these 10 or whatever, that I haven't mentioned or won't mention, but that's not because I don't recommend them. I just have way too many I'm talking about already. But let's get started. These aren't necessarily in any order. I mean, kind of chronological, but not really. Anyway, let's get started. First one I want to talk about is Haunted House on Atari 2600. Aggie Thunderpaw will agree with me. This game is amazing. This is my favorite game on the Atari 2600. Basically, you are exploring a haunted house. It's got 4 floors to it. The guy died and is like haunting the house, and you need to collect all 3 parts of the urn and escape the house alive. There's 9 levels to it, and what's really cool with it is you can actually select what level you want. There's 9 levels total, each one getting more difficult. Like, level 1 is pretty easy, level 2 has lights out, and then as you get further on, the doors are going to be locked, so you need a master key, but you can only have 1 item at a time, between the scepter, which makes you not die, the skeleton key, which will open up any of the doors, or, of course, the urn, which you need to complete the game. However, there's the ghost running around, there's bats, there's spiders, and as you go on in the 9 levels, you're going to see more ghosts, more spiders, more bats. So naturally, there's definitely a challenge there. But the really cool thing is, it is randomized each time you play it. So sometimes you can walk in, the urn is right inside the door. Cool, I'm done. There are other times where you could swear that you've gone through every room in the 4 floors of this mansion and can't find it. So every time you play it is a brand new experience, which is really great. Ahead of its time on the 2600. I like to play it a lot around Halloween time, and it's pretty much always in my Atari, so that way when I feel like playing Atari, I'm probably playing Haunted House. Next up, my only import game on the list. I could have mentioned Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, which is like $7 or $8 or whatever, but I'm trying to stick away from a lot of the import games because most of the people watching are wanting the, I don't know, American versions or the English versions of them. But this was a game that was never released in America, so the only way to play it outside of emulators is on the Super Famicom, which is this Dragon Ball Z game, Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden, which is a $6 game loose. This is a simple fighting game where you have like 8 characters to choose from, all from the Dragon Ball Z series: Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Frieza, Cell, Piccolo. There's also a sequel, Dragon Ball Z 2, which is also the same price. Similar type of game. Both of these are great, both under $10, by the way. You're seeing footage of the first one that I mentioned. Like I said, pick your favorite character, duke it out in the arena, and it's just a really fun game. It's a really fun fighting game. I think that actually might be the first Super Famicom game I ever played, although that sounds like a big deal. It's not. That was just a couple years ago when I first started playing it. But I got this Dragon Ball Z game in a Retro Game Treasure box, and I'm like, yeah, let's try it out. I got this adapter that goes from the Super Famicom to the regular Super Nintendo. Just pop the adapter in, pop the game in, and then you're playing Japanese games on your American console. And it's just a fun game. So I definitely recommend that one to you guys, especially if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan. And next up, we have Destroy All Humans on PS2, which this is actually loose. This is a DVD case. So loose is running for $7, but complete in box, you can still get it for $10. So it makes the cut on this list. But this is just a really entertaining game. I remember playing the demo of it, and there's so much humor to it. You're an alien. You come down on Earth, and your first interaction with an Earthling is actually a cow, and so you think that the cow is the superior life form on the planet. And so yeah, you have like weird weapons to, well, I don't know, as the name implies, destroy all humans. But like I said, the game is a lot of fun. You play as this alien, and it's just a lot of fun, and there's a lot of nostalgia to it. Now, as far as the games on my list, this is probably the one I know the least amount about, because I haven't played it in a very long time, and I didn't get that far in it. But that doesn't mean it's not fun. It's a very fun game. Just when you have 1,600 games in your collection, some games get a little neglected. But, well, with talking about it, I get to play it a little bit, so that's really cool. It's a win-win. You guys get to see some footage. I get to play a game that I talk about that I like, that I haven't gotten a chance to really play all that much, so I get to play a little bit more. So, yeah, that's cool.
I don't care how many stomachs you have. I don't have time for this.
Is Star Wars Battlefront. Okay, so this is like one of my all-time favorite games of all time. Probably my favorite. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 are probably like my two favorite games on the PS2. They're so good. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's like, it's got a lot of action. It's borderline strategy where you have an army of 50 against an army of 50, and you just take over the map. You have different bases, so you either wipe out all the enemies or take over all of the territories that are like throughout the map. And in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which obviously you're not seeing footage for Battlefront 2, but in Battlefront 2 you can be a Jedi if you have so many kills. But unfortunately that's a $12 game, so that one doesn't quite go in that. But since, like I said, the original is a $10 game, well, you can get that one for $10. But like I said, this game is one of my favorites on the PS2. I've beaten it a few times. I even beaten it on the channel before. So if you want to see a playthrough of that, I have that on the channel. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's one of my favorite games on the PS2. Play as the Rebels, play as the Empire, play as the Republic, play as the Sith. Be the battle droids against the clones, or be the stormtroopers against the rebels. There's so many locations that are iconic from the Star Wars movies. So like I said, if you're a Star Wars fan, this game is great for you, but you probably already know about it. But even if you're not a Star Wars fan, there's a lot of action here that will keep you coming back for more. It's so addicting. And of course, it's multiplayer, couch co-op, couch versus, so much fun. Next up, for the original Xbox, Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, which is a roughly $8-9 game, or Platinum Hits is like $6. So this is actually the first Xbox game I've ever played, and it was pretty much the first time I've ever seen an Xbox before in my life. So over at somebody's house, I don't know, 2003 maybe, and they had an original Xbox, and that was the game that we played. And I remember that I forgot what the game was called for a while, but I'm thinking like, I want to get this game again on the original Xbox to kind of relive that one night that I had. I mean, it's a fun game, but it is weird, or odd, as I guess you can say. So I know that for a lot of the game you're playing as Munch because it's Munch's Odyssey, but I know the first level you're playing as Abe, which is the protag from like the other Oddworld games, like Oddworld, Abe's Exodus and Odyssey and stuff, and that's who you're playing as at the beginning of the game. And so I don't really know too much about it. I don't know how to really describe it except for kind of a 3D platformer, and you got to rescue your friends. But the most important part is the ability to fart. I really don't know how else to describe it. It's just a game that you gotta just see for yourself. It's a fun game though. It is weird, but some of the controls, like the camera's a little hard to get used to. You don't have full camera control, which is weird because you have that second C stick there, but so that might interfere with some of your jumps, but I mean, it's still just an entertaining game with a lot of fart humor and burp humor, I guess. But I mean, it is gross out humor, which was definitely the thing of the late 90s and early 2000s. I guess all of the 90s and the early 2000s. Gross out humor was like the thing. And well, this game captures a little bit of that with that fart mechanic, which you better believe that 10-year-old me was exploiting that over and over. Just take a couple steps and then fart again. So good. Moving on to the PS3, we have the original Infamous, which is a roughly $8 game. This game, I remember playing the demos in the stores, and I thought it was so cool. Yes, I have beaten it. This is one of the few games I've actually beaten, which tells you something right there, because when you have 1,600 games, you don't get a chance to beat a lot of them. So if you actually do get around to beating a game, you know it's good. And this game is really good. I mean, for one, you got a story where you can choose between being a good guy or a bad guy. You clear out the city from all the villains, and as you do that, you're able to unlock more powers. You have the power of lightning, so you can summon lightning storms or shock grenades or absorb like energy from like power plants and stuff to like restore your own energy and health. There's so many different things. You can jump from building to building like Spider-Man, and you can like hover, like shooting lightning at the ground to kind of like do like a hover parachute thing from building to building, which is really fun in itself. But like I said, you get to unlock new powers. There's story elements where you have to choose between like rescuing your girlfriend or rescuing like this group of people, and so you need to make the decision of, do I care more about myself or do I care more about others, or do I care more about my girlfriend, which is kind of more like caring for myself versus again caring for others. So you have to balance like this ultimate good and evil decisions. A lot of times it is pretty simple, like kill this sick person or heal the sick person. Some of those are pretty obvious. Oh yeah, I'm going to heal the sick person. I want to be a hero, which also affects their views of you. Like you run by, they're like, yeah, Cole, go Cole, or like they run away in terror because they're afraid of you because you're a villain. So, like I said, it's really cool to have that good versus evil superhero. Like I said, like it's borderline open world in this very large city, which starts to open up a little bit more when you get more powers. And so you can run over here and find this group of people that you need to rescue or help in some way. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah. Infamous 2 is also under $10, so check that one out too. I've not really played the second one, but I have beaten the first one. The first one is really good, so stop watching this video, go out there and buy it. Just kidding. Keep watching this video. Speaking of people named Cole, L.A. Noire, another fantastic game, which, this price tag is not a $13 game, because it's actually a $9 game on the PS3. Rockstar, imagine Grand Theft Auto, but you're back in the 1940s. It is 1947, I think. You're Cole Phelps. You just came home from the army. World War II has just ended, and you are a cop now. You're a detective. You go around solving crimes in LA in the 1940s. Very nostalgic if you're of the older crowd, but even if you're not, it gives you a view of what it's like to live in that era, the cars of that era, the music of that era, which if you're like me and big into music, I love music of like all decades and stuff. So 1940s music, while it's not the 70s, it's still pretty cool to hear that. You have extra missions of, I don't know, stopping an armed robbery or some kind of shootout or whatever, along with the actual roles of being a detective. So you gotta go to the crime scene. Okay, this person is dead on the ground. Look for clues. Investigate. Ask people like, hey, did you see what happened? And see if they're lying or telling the truth or not giving you the whole truth. They actually have like motion capture on all these people to determine if they're actually like lying or not. Like, so you got to look for like shaking in their seats or like not looking at you, kind of like drifting their eyes somewhere else because they don't want to reveal something. So you're like, hey, I think you're lying to me. So there's so much in there. It's so advanced. And it's a big game. It's a long game. There's so many missions. And like I said, not even including the main missions. You have the side missions too. There's so much content to this game. Which, by the way, we've got a partial playthrough of that on the channel as well. So if you want to hear more about that, join me, Kajinama, and Phoenix as we play through this game. I don't know how many episodes we've done. What, like 50 episodes or 60 episodes? I don't even know at this point. But check it out. It's great. You get to crash cars, destroy cars. In fact, that's a lot of the fun of it. You can instead of stealing cars, because it's not Grand Theft Auto, you're basically like you're borrowing another citizen's car because you need that car to, I don't know, track somebody down or whatever. And every time you get into a new car that you've not seen, you can like basically unlock that car, which is also really cool, especially if you're a car guy and you're like, oh man, that's a really nice car. Yeah, it's got cars, it's got 40s music, it's got the 40s culture, it's got it all. And again, it's like a $9 game, so you gotta get it. It's such a good game. So good. The next one I want to mention is BioShock. This game is so good. By the way, the second one is also about $5. This is probably like $6 or $7. So yeah, BioShock. You are in the underwater city of Rapture. However, it is after this utopian society that's been built where you can have whatever life you want has started to collapse. I mean, both literally and, I mean, like, the society is just falling apart. So water starting to, like, come in through some of the stuff, but everybody is just completely psychotic. But as you go through this game, you can start to alter your own DNA where you have, like, elemental powers. You can shoot, like, a fireball out of your hand, or you can have telekinesis where you can block a missile and then shoot it back at the machine that's shooting it at you. But it's like a borderline horror game as well, because you're walking through this just creepy area and you have somebody that just drops down from the ceiling and you're like, oh man, I gotta defend myself. But my favorite part is the Big Daddy right there, where you can choose, how do I do this? Because you know that those Big Daddies are protecting what is known as a little sister, just an innocent, brainwashed little girl, and you're like, well, I gotta rescue her. Or you can, I don't know, just absorb all of the stuff from her and she ends up not living. So you can also have that whole good versus evil thing if you want to just make yourself stronger or save people. But it's such a good game, just such an immersive way of storytelling where the story is not like told to you necessarily. It's all based on recordings that you see or some of the people that you meet. There's a lot of interesting characters in that, and it's such a good game. The second one is good, but not as good. But I still recommend to try it out. But definitely get the original BioShock. You won't be disappointed. And it's so cheap that why not? Just do yourself a favor.
Even in the gathering dark, you light a candle. You have saved the little ones when you might have shown your cruelty. I am sending something your way to demonstrate our fight.
The next one I want to mention, yeah, no surprise if you know me that I'm going to talk about this game, is Dead Rising. Which, by the way, Dead Rising 2 is also pretty cheap. But Let's just talk about the first one here. So, you're Frank West. You're investigating something that's going on in Willamette, Colorado, and so you go and investigate, and you notice people are acting pretty strange. So you get dropped off on top of this mall, and you realize that what you're in the middle of is the zombie apocalypse. Zombies break into the mall, and so you're in a zombie-infested mall like Dawn of the Dead. However, it's not a horror game. It's actually a comedy made by Capcom, the creators of Mega Man, and there are Mega Man references everywhere in this game. Everything, and I mean everything, is a weapon. You go into a store, grab a stack of CDs, throw them at the zombies. Get a baseball bat, swing that baseball bat. A katana, randomly? Sure, why not? And you have interesting psychopaths that you can fight. You have a clown that has chainsaws. You have some redneck guy with a shotgun. And that's one of the more normal ones, I guess. But, like I said, anything's a weapon. And you can go with the most unconventional style of weapons that you can imagine. Like I said, a stack of CDs. Or, I don't know, a foam Mega Buster from Mega Man. You can do that too. There are so many unlockable things too. Stop the escaped convicts, and you unlock the convict outfit for yourself. Or go into a store as a man named Frank and put on a dress, because why not? Anything goes in this game. It's so much fun, so addicting. It's a sandbox mode basically where you can do whatever you want, but it's also a timed thing. So while you're in this mall, you're investigating what is going on in this mall, but you also get notifications of, hey, there's a survivor in this area, so you go over there, and you can, if you want, rescue them. However, I will say, survivors are... just watch my playthrough of it, and you'll see the biggest issue I have with this game are the survivors. Just like... They would just, like, a zombie comes near them, they'll just cower on the ground and start crying. I'm like, dude, you got a machine gun! Use the machine gun! So, that part's a little infuriating. But you keep coming back for more, because every time you think, okay, what weapon am I going to find in this store? Or what article of clothing? And the articles of clothing matter in the cutscenes, because if you have Frank in a dress, Frank will be in a dress in all the cutscenes, and that is the funniest thing. Like, I remember I found a Servbot mask, and I had a pink dress on, and that was what I wore when I beat the final boss of the game in my playthrough on the channel. It is, like I said, it is hilarious, and the newer ones are great, but they don't capture the style or the humor of, say, Dead Rising 2, and Dead Rising Off the Record. 3 doesn't have as much of that. 4, at least you're playing as Frank, so you have a little bit of that. But the original is just so good. It's so funny, and just so interesting. So definitely check out that game if you're into zombie games, survivor-type games, and I don't know, if you just want to laugh at just the nonsense of it. This game has so much nonsense to it that it's great. The last one I want to mention is kind of a weird choice here, because I noticed on my GameEye app that Cameo Elements of Power was a $10 game. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great game that nobody talks about. But then I realized Cameo Elements of Power is in Rare Replay for the same price on the Xbox One, and not only do you get a great fantasy adventure game where you're playing as a fairy stopping an army of trolls that can shapeshift into a bunch of different monsters, you have that along with so many other iconic games made by Rare. You have Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, a couple of the greatest games ever on the Nintendo 64, along with other great Rare games like Jet Force Gemini. In Conker's Bad Fur Day, you also have some old school stuff like, well, I'm not a big fan of Battletoads, but Battletoads is on there too if you want to, well, if you want to suffer. But what's really cool here is if you crash into that wall in Battletoads Turbo Tunnel, you can just rewind it back 10 seconds and try again. So it's almost like death has no consequences. But the other big thing, which almost makes this the definitive way to play Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, is, unlike the original, when you're collecting music notes and you die, you gotta recollect all those music notes in the original. But in this version, if you collect a music note, you got it forever. So you don't have to worry about those hard to reach places and try to get all 100 on single life. That doesn't really matter. Like, you can just explore to your heart's content, and you have, like I said, you have so many options. I mean, I can name these off to you. Attic, Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts, Banjo-Tooie, Battletoads Arcade, Blast Corps, Cobra Triangle, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Digger T-Rock, Grab by the Ghoulies, Gunfight, Jet Force Gemini, Jetpack Refueled, Cameo Elements of Power, Killer Instinct Gold, Night Lore, Lunar Jetman, Perfect Dark Zero, RC Pro-Am, classic on the NES, RC Pro-Am 2, Saber Wolf, Slalom, Snake Rattle and Roll, Solar Jetman, Underworld, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise. All of those games, all of them, most of them, are great and must-have games in themselves. But the fact that they're on one disc on the Xbox One for $10 or less makes it probably the best deal in all of them that I mentioned. It might not be my favorite of the ones I mentioned, but it's definitely the best deal because there's so much content there. And there's so many more I could have mentioned. Like Jak and Daxter, the original, is under $10. The Sonic Genesis collection on 360 and PS3 is also under $10, and you get access to like 30 or 40 classic Genesis games. There's so many amazing games that are under $10, and I only scratched the surface, even when I double my amount of games. So, I don't know about you guys, but I want to play some of these $10 games, and I hope you do too. But before I go, I guess I should continue the tradition and challenge a couple other people out there. So, Mike Tendo Power, if you're watching this, and if you've not been challenged yet, I challenge you to do the same thing. And because I know you've got an amazing collection.
Let's see. Loose disc. What is this gonna be? Oh, it looks like Super Mario Sunshine. Hell yeah, that's an awesome game to get.
Because I've seen all your unboxing videos. You've got some pretty cool stuff in there. I'm sure you can find 5 amazing games that you could recommend to other people. Curious to see what you choose. Also, I want to give a shout out and challenge Joe Schmo.
So, around here, I ended up getting a Fallout 76 guide, which is official Prima. Only problem is that little bottom there, but that's fine. And I ended up getting an Assassin's Creed official art book, which is fantastic. Look at that. It's so beautiful. I love it. Assassin's Creed is one of those series that I love, and I've been playing since I was young, and I'll always keep playing. So, now we go into what I got around here, which I believe I showed most of it. I don't remember at the time I recorded, but Battlefront 2, NHL 17.
A guy who does a lot of anime stuff and a lot of video game stuff, and he's got an amazing collection. He's so passionate about video games and video game preservation, so I know that, Joe, you've got a lot of great options, and I want to see what you pick too. So Mike Tendo Power and Joe Schmo, you guys are continuing the tradition of the 5 games for under $10 challenge. Excited to see what you guys get. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to stop this video here before I ramble on too long, but if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when another video comes out, subscribe to Joe Schmo and Mike Tendo Power and Aggie Thunderpaw. All are great YouTubers, so I definitely recommend. You won't be disappointed. Plenty of content for you guys to enjoy on all 3 of those channels, as well as obviously here, because, I mean, I gotta promote my own channel. But you guys already know that, and you guys are already subscribed to me, right? Right? I also have a Facebook page and Instagram that you can follow me on there. And I also have a Discord as well, so if you want to join my Discord and talk about video games, of course, and anime and Pokemon and post memes and talk about nostalgia, we got a lot of cool stuff on that. So if you want to join the Discord, just say I want to join the Discord. I'll be like, cool, here's an invite, and we can have fun, hang out, nerd out. But I guess that's all I really have to say, so thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.